Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to do a bit of a throwback video on the original and very tiny and compact iPhone SE from 2016. I'm just going to do the usual like I do with all my other videos and go through the specs including the camera, performance and battery and all that sort of stuff and see if this almost 6-year-old device is still worth buying in 2022. So let's dive in. So to summarise the specs, we have a tiny 4-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1136 by 640 and around 326 ppi. So the SE shares the exact same dimensions as the 5 and 5S, and also this is the same pixel density that you continue to find on the iPhone 7, iPhone 8 and the iPhone XR much later on. But on this smaller display it's absolutely fine. Above the display you have an earpiece, and above that again your 1.2 megapixel f2.4 selfie camera with up to 720p video at 30 frames per second. And at the bottom your home button with Touch ID. So one thing to note about the iPhone SE is although it was released at the same time as the iPhone 7 a year later from the 6S series, unfortunately it didn't adopt the second generation Touch ID that you find on the 6S series, nor did it adopt the 5 megapixel selfie camera. It is unfortunately stuck with the 1.2 that you found on the iPhone 5S. We have an all aluminium build, which still to this day has a nice premium feel, more premium than budget phones of today. And then sleep wake power button on the top, SIM tray on the right, volume buttons and mute button on the left, and single speaker and lightning port on the bottom. So a tiny phone makes my iPhone 12 feel massive when I go back to using it, but I find myself getting used to it very quickly each time I pick it up. And of course one consequence of a very small phone is a very small battery. The iPhone SE comes with a tiny 1624 mAh battery, which of course by today's standards is absolutely tiny and you wouldn't ever think that that would get you through a full day, but it surprised me. On a day of moderate use, it actually did get me through a full day. But the moment you start taxing it with gaming and camera use and all that sort of stuff, of course you will then start to see the battery drain pretty quickly. And also inside the iPhone SE, you get 2 gigabytes of RAM with either 16, 32, 64 or 128 gigabytes of storage. And the model I have here is 32 gigabytes. And now of course even today budget smartphones are coming with 128 gigabytes of storage, so the first 3 storage options of the iPhone SE are going to be considered pretty low by today's standards. And as for powering the SE, you have the Apple A9 processor, the same processor that powered the iPhone 6 series. Even today this gives plenty of power for general use, although not considered power efficient due to the old 14nm architecture, but day-to-day use is smooth and responsive, but you may find it struggling with heavy or graphic intense gaming. And lastly, if we talk about the camera, on the rear you get a single 12 megapixel camera with an f2.2 aperture. This is the same main camera that you find on the iPhone 6S series, but like the 6S, the iPhone SE does miss out on optical image stabilization that you'll only find on the iPhone 6S Plus. So photos out of the SE are generally really good, especially coming from a near 6-year-old device. Colours are vibrant but not too overdone, and HDR does a good job of controlling tricky lighting scenarios. There's some nice natural depth of field, but not as much as you'll find from other phones with larger apertures. And the SE does a nice job with skin tones, producing nice photos with no unnatural smoothing. Unfortunately, the SE doesn't come with any portrait mode, so you don't get those nice blurred backgrounds when taking photos of people. And quality from the selfie camera is to be expected from such a low resolution, but I think it does better than what the numbers would suggest. And although my skin is noticeably paler, HDR does a commendable job controlling the brighter areas at the back. So all in all, the camera does a very commendable job when it comes to normal still photos. In nice bright conditions, I think it does a pretty good job at keeping up with budget smartphones of today. But unfortunately in lower light situations, because of the lack of night mode and then there's no pixel binning like what you find on other budget devices, that's where the SE does kind of fall short. And that's where all of these budget phones do have a considerable advantage due to that 4-in-1 pixel binning, which the iPhone SE does lack. So that's my look at the iPhone SE from 2016. It does come with plenty of drawbacks, such as the size, and then of course there's the battery life, which isn't going to be anywhere near what you'll find on other smartphones. And of course, being as old as it is, it's not going to be eligible for software updates. It is currently on iOS 15.3, so at the time of this video it is up to date, but down the line it probably isn't going to get iOS 16. It's probably going to be dropped off a cliff in that regard. So in terms of a budget iPhone, it's alright. I mean, it does the job, no problem. It got me through a day at work. I think I ended the day on about 29% when I actually left work. So of course it's worse than my iPhone 12, but it still got me through that day. Now, if you're looking at other second-hand iPhones, of course there's the 7 and the 8 series, which you can definitely pick up for less money as well. This one cost me 70 quid, I think, which the 7 and the 8 of course are not going to be quite that cheap unless you buy them in terrible condition. And then obviously you've got the iPhone 12 and 13 minis, but of course they're not considered budget compact phones. So if you want something that's still a compact phone that you can get for pretty dirt cheap, the iPhone SE is definitely an option, but like I said, not necessarily the best option. I think if you can get an iPhone 7 or an 8 or something like that at a close enough price to this, that's definitely going to be a better option. But let me know in the comments what you think of the iPhone SE from 2016. Is it something that you'd consider buying in 2022? If not, let me know, or if yes, again, let me know. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.